Hello and welcome back to True Crime Guys Podcast. I'm Lauren.
And I'm Michael.
How we doing, people?
They're hanging in there. We're hanging in there, man. Got a new series for everybody.
Yeah, we're helping you guys along through this crazy time in life right now and in the world.
Yeah, bringing some type of consistency here with series. I kind of like doing these series. It's kind of fun. Kind of gets you in that frame of mind. And like
Absolutely.
being in that frame of mind for a longer period of time, you get to grab other little things and other little instances, throughout that mold that add to each case. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
You start to see consistencies and you can compare. I get this. I see why Esther from Once Upon a Crime does this. This is a good This is a good strategy here. I like this.
Yeah, we got a lot of feedback on our Lotto Winner series. It seems like people get more involved with the series for some reason. They start sending you different ones. So yeah, more than welcome to send us some options because we might carry this on for a little while. We're going to be doing a scam artist series, which we've done a couple scammers in the past. I realize, we did Catch Me If You Can.
Abagnale, Frank Abagnale.
Frank Abagnale. And I guess you could almost say that who's the kid that stole planes and stuff? He was kind of a scam artist.
Oh yeah, Colt.
Yeah, Colt.
Oh, Colt.
He was more of
then,
just a thief than anything
yeah.
else, though. He wasn't really tricking you. He was just sneaking around and stealing shit.
Right. Jose Vagoa was kind of a con artist in a way. He kind of scraped on it, but he was kind of, like you said as well, more brazen too. He kind of
more
just
of a
had
heist type of a guy.
Yeah, heist. Yeah, good point.
Yeah. These guys would blatantly lie to your face and take your money.
Straight up
and
con
offer you
artist.
services that didn't exist, that were useless for a premium.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Different.
You know what this got me thinking of? It's got me thinking of con artist movies. And you know what my favorite con artist movie is?
What's that?
Matchstick Men.
I've never seen that.
Really?
Yeah.
Dude, with Nicolas Cage?
Well, I do love the Cage, man. I
Bro.
told you my story about being behind him in line.
Yes, I know.
A few
Listen,
times.
Sam Rockwell's in this?
Oh, shit.
Yes, dude, Matchstick Men. You got to check it out. One of the best con artist movies ever. To me, I don't know. Maybe it's just nostalgic. Maybe I just saw it at a certain point in my life, But I think it's a great movie. I've seen it multiple times. I love it. Got to check it out. Came out in 2003. But,
Okay.
yeah. It's actually labeled as like comedy, dark comedy is what it's kind of labeled as. I don't really know how funny it is, but it's definitely a good movie. You should check
Nice.
it out.
The Cage, man. Is there an actor out there with more of a variety of films between like just complete absolute horseshit movies and then like some really good movies? Like he will just take anything. Like Ghost Rider, my God, I tried to watch that just pile of dung.
You don't like Ghost Rider?
No, bro. It was almost it was almost watchable because it was so bad. But I don't know. It was cringy bad.
Yeah. Well, what's wrong? You just don't like Cage with it, or you don't like the story of Ghost Rider,
No,
or
the
what?
whole concept. He's a dude like a flaming skull riding a motorcycle. It was just so corny.
Well, that's not his fault. That's been around forever, though.
Yeah, but they just never should have been done.
Oh, okay.
And he shouldn't have been in it.
It's okay.
Pick better stuff, dude. He's been in some real crap, but then he's been in like Raising Arizona and Gone. Was it Gone in 60 Seconds? It was
Gone
great.
in 60 Seconds, the series. Yes, love that movie. Eleanor.
Yeah. He's been in some great movies.
Yeah, he has. But Matchstick Men, dude, one of the greats for me. So you guys should check that out if you haven't seen it. It's kind of a little gem, in my opinion.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, well, I wasn't going to do this till later in the show, but I have a big announcement to make, and I wanted to surprise you with it on the show.
Uh-oh.
My wife and I have decided to move, so we're going to have to, the show is going to, it's going to be tough for a little while. But,
Holy shit. Where are you moving to?
We're moving to Idaho.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
You're serious. You're seriously moving to Idaho.
Yeah, Boise.
You just bought your house.
I know.
Yeah, fuck
And
the
if you
house,
believe
man.
this,
I get
Michael.
you. Listen, bro.
If
listen,
you believe
gotta
this,
tell me.
I have a bridge to sell you, my friend.
You have what?
A bridge to sell you.
You have a bridge to sell me?
I do.
Oh, I believe
Beautiful.
both of these things.
Obviously, I'm joking around. I hope I caught you. Because this is the Scam Artist series, and the first guy we're doing sold bridges and kind
You
of
bastard.
coined that term. If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you. So let's dive into this.
Damn it, Lauren. All right.
Did you hear the pause when I was trying to think of a place that I was moving to? It's like, fuck, where do I move?
See, but that's not fair because you've told me before that you like Idaho, and
I know, right?
That was not fair. That you really messed me up with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Anyways. All right, let's get into this shit.
All right, Michael's mad now. Let's do it.
One of the most famous con men in history, Victor Lustig. He once conned Al Capone and sold the Eiffel Tower twice. But this gentleman wrote 10 commandments of con men. And lucky for you, I fit him in this easy-to-remember song. Be a patient listener, fast talking, don't always do the trick. Never look bored if you must yawn, better do it quick. When political views are revealed, agree with all of them. Same applies to religious views. You gotta match them sin for sin. Maybe have a little sex talk, but don't follow it up unless they bite. Never talk about illness unless concerns are brought to light. Never pry too hard, they'll tell you everything in due time, and never boast. Just have a good sense of pride. Never be untidy, you must always be neat and clean. Never get drunk, cause you might accidentally say what you mean. That's the worst thing you could do. You would be fucked, yes you would. So, you wanna be a con man, just follow these rules, play your hand, and good luck. Good luck.
All right, so to kick off this Scam Artist series, we're going to start with one of the greatest. I mean, I don't know. The thing is, like, he's relatively unknown, aside from kind of coining that term. Mm-hmm. Not that it was him, but, you know, people took what he did and kind of rolled it into a saying about people who are gullible.
Right.
So you may have heard that whole, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you thing, but you may not have known the origin of it or how it came to be, and that's this guy that we're going to talk about. And we actually have 2 cases for you this week. So we're going to, you know, it's a look forward to mash them up at times. We have another one. There's actually some murder in this one. So look forward to that. A little spoiler alert. Our second guy was involved in a murder. But we're going to start with George C. Parker, who is the reason that whole phrase exists. I want to thank historycollection.com for a really well-done article that I used to study for this case. Let's dive into George C. Parker. He was born March 16th, 1860. He shares a birthday with Flava Flav. Vegas local. My buddy actually had a run-in with him at his house. I don't know. I can't really say it because it'll give away what I do. But it was pretty funny. Pretty funny situation. And
I've heard that.
Seemed really cool about it. So
I've heard that. Wasn't he like riding a bike down the street?
No, he was in his house having his hair dyed.
Okay, well then I've heard more than one story about somebody meeting Flavor Flav, because somebody that we worked with said they ran into him and he was riding this enormous bike, like one of those bikes they were like, we don't know how he got on it. It was like one of those bikes with the big front wheel and like the little back wheel, and you got to have like a ladder.
The old timey bikes.
Yeah, he was riding like one of those.
Like a hipster bike you would see somebody riding around Oregon on.
Dude, I could totally picture Flavor Flav driving that. That's one
For
thing I like
sure,
about
man.
him.
With the
'cause Flavor
giant clock
Flav-
around his neck.
Yeah, he's like, fuck society, fuck what the norm is. This is the kind of stuff I like. This is what I want to do. And Flavor
and
Flav
to be
seems
fair,
like
I think he's missing quite a few brain cells. I don't know what kind of drug use was
Probably.
going on in his younger years, but he seems
Hey.
happily ignorant, I guess. I don't know if that's the right
Hey,
term. He
ignorance
seems
is
like a
bliss
really
sometimes.
likable guy, but yeah,
Yeah.
like he just kind of is in his own little world and happy to be there type of thing.
yeah. But now Eric Estrada, on the other hand,
Who also
he's
has the birthday of March 16th.
he does. He is he's in law enforcement now.
That's
Did you
pretty
know
cool,
that?
man. And he was from Chips, right?
And you know what he's doing? Yeah, he was in Chips. He's actually an investigator of internet crimes against children.
Oh, that's awesome.
What
Busy
better
times
than
for
someone,
that these days, unfortunately.
Do what?
Busy times for that, unfortunately.
Yeah, and I was about to say, who better than someone in Hollywood to investigate this? I'm surprised he's not dead yet, though. Like,
It makes you wonder if he got into it because he saw within Hollywood, he was witness to some stuff that he was not cool with.
oh, guaranteed.
There's got to be some good people in Hollywood that aren't into children being sold and involved in sex trade.
Yeah, seriously.
think.
One could hope.
It's hard to tell though, because when you really start looking, it's scary how many of them are in it between government and Hollywood.
Right, and you don't know how much. There's always it seems like there's a dollar amount to turn a good man bad. You know what I'm saying? There's always that dollar amount that's looming.
Yeah,
And in
pretty sad.
Hollywood, they have it. They have it.
So Parker, who shares a birthday with those great men, was born in New York City to Irish parents. He was a first generation American. His parents were immigrated over from Ireland. Not much is known about his early life. It's always hard when you're talking, the 19th century.
Right, right.
And pre-19th century stuff. You just don't have a whole ton of history on everybody.
Right.
A lot of it's speculation. But he did have 4 brothers and 3 sisters, and he did graduate high school. Let's talk a little bit about New York in the 1880s. I'm sure we already have in the past, but as you know, it was a melting pot of immigrants arriving in the New World from all corners of the globe. Most came in impoverished, but there were some who arrived with investment capital, eager to get in on the American dream. And this is what George C. Parker would learn to exploit, is these people coming over with money,
Right.
wanting to get their stake in this new world, and eager to find something to invest in and whatnot. And there was George C. Parker, happily with arms wide open, waiting to greet them.
That's right. Give him a little piece of realty.
Yeah. So proposals for a new bridge, or just a bridge in general, because there was Brooklyn and New York were separated cities at the time. And the only way of traveling between the two cities was a number of ferry lines. And so there had been proposals as early as 1800 for a bridge to cross over the cities. The Brooklyn Bridge was conceived by German immigrant John Augustus Roebling in 1852. He had previously designed and constructed shorter suspension bridges, but this would end up being the longest suspension bridge in the world at the time of his opening, with a main span of 1,595 feet and a deck located at 127 feet above the water. Really an amazing feat for the time, this bridge, when it was built.
And it's still an amazing feat now. I think about
For
that
sure.
now. When I go over bridges, I just went to the coast this past week, and I had to go over a bridge to get to this island that I was on. And I'm just looking around, and it's fascinating. Fascinating
Right.
works of art and architecture that a bridge is, to go that far. And it's almost scary. Like, like how big and how incredible they are, and then the penalty of if one were to collapse.
To think
crazy.
that the Brooklyn Bridge was built in 1883, it was completed and
I
open
know.
for use. And I don't think it's ever really, I'm sure it's been maintained, but obviously they never tore it down and rebuilt it. So that thing that was built in the 1880s and has had millions and millions of people cross it, probably into the billions at this point.
Billions now.
Yeah.
Dude.
Like to think it's still, standing, still operational. At what point does it break down, or if
That's
ever?
a
I
real
know that's
American
a really,
steel.
yeah, those suspension bridges, man, the way they do those are amazing.
Yes,
With
they
the
are.
steel cables, and supposedly they were going to use at the time that hemp was very common for the suspension, and they decided to go with steel cable. I think that was a pretty good idea. I don't know how much longer that. I don't think the hemp would still be.
Listen,
hemp's very strong material. Don't get me wrong, but I don't
Right.
know how long it would last.
Listen, I love hemp as much as the next guy, but I'm not building bridges with it. Like, no way. Like, let me get some of that steel cable, please.
It's going to break down at some point. You would think, So
Yeah, most likely.
So yeah, as I mentioned, the Brooklyn Bridge was opened for use in 1883, and it was May 24th that it was opened for use. Thousands of people attended the opening ceremony, and many ships were present in the East River for the occasion. Patronage across the Brooklyn Bridge increased in the years after it opened. 1 million people paid to cross in the first 6 months. It's a lot of money to be made, and that's kind of what George Parker was selling to these people that came over. Think of all that toll money, that you could get when I sell you this bridge.
Right, exactly.
The bridge carried 8.5 million people in 1884. Its first full year of operation, this number doubled to 17 million in 1885, and again to 34 million in 1889. So it's safe to say there's been billions for sure that have crossed it at this point.
Oh God, yes.
Many of people that have probably crossed it hundreds, if not thousands of times themselves, that live in the area that have to cross it for work or whatever.
Right.
Many of these people were cable car passengers. Additionally, about 4.5 million pedestrians a year were crossing the bridge for free by 1892. George C. Parker saw in this bridge an opportunity for a quick buck and took it. And you'd say quick buck, but he turned it into a long game too. He did this for 30 years allegedly. So his whole idea was to basically trick people into believing he was the owner of the bridge. And we'll dive into that in a second. But with millions of people crossing the bridge per year, there were bound to be some suckers, he thought. The Brooklyn Bridge had several attributes that made it particularly well-suited for this sort of endeavor. Its proximity to the port made it highly visible to newcomers, and its size provided opportunities to show off while avoiding the law. But perhaps most critical was its considerable fame. So like people that came to the New World, is this new feat of engineering, everybody had to see it, And so there was just so much tourism and foot traffic and people just loitering about. And there was a lot of opportunity in that.
Right. And this also explains the gullibleness of so many people, because they didn't know that bridges were owned by because this is like this may be the first bridge of this stature that many of these people had even seen.
Right.
You know what I mean? So they don't know how
and they're just
work.
getting here to the New World. They don't know how this new country operates.
Right. And then right off the bat,
from Ireland, they don't know what kind of city ownership or anything like that's going on. It could very easily could have been a privately built bridge or
exactly and
privately owned.
And also, like, in defense of these people who fell for this, like, who wouldn't want to take an opportunity to make a little money right off the bat? You know what I mean? It's like, okay, I got this big investment. What better to invest in than a bridge that people are crossing constantly? And if I can set up,
not going anywhere,
right? And if I can set up my toll booth there, I mean, that's a steady income right off the bat.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, and I'm sure George was also very persuasive and charismatic.
Oh, of
to
course.
be a salesman of that,
like most
of that
con
ilk.
men. Yeah.
And he probably got better and better at it over the years. So George actually, he had this scheme going pretty deep too. He would actually bribe men working the ferry boats on Ellis Island, bringing the new immigrants to New York to tell him who had a lot of cash on them. So he'd get these ferrymen to cozy up to the marks that were on the boat coming to New York and basically try and figure out which ones of them had some capital, had some money, and were looking to invest in things. And then they would then tip off George for a small fee or whatever.
Yeah, because that was back in the day when everyone just talked. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You just talked to people. You didn't have a phone. You didn't have the
you
internet.
weren't on TikTok.
No.
You had to talk to people. It was just kind of, what else are you going to do?
Hey, careful. The president's banning TikTok. Don't be mentioning that on here. You're going to get us banned.
Right. I won't miss it, but I also am not sure I believe in banning things you don't like either. I think that's kind of a
that's bullshit.
Little dictatorial.
Yeah, I think TikTok is creepy. I've said that before. I feel like the videos on there they're fucking creepy. They're not good for people. But I also think about if a whole website can be banned, he's not going to stop there. I mean, especially not someone like him. He's going to go, and we can't censor the internet. Come on, it's the one thing that we don't have censored.
Right.
Like, we can't.
You see, someone said supposedly Donald Trump's banning TikTok. So if you want to watch 16-year-olds dance, you'll have to be on Bill Clinton's private plane.
Oh, ouch! Butt up, bang. Damn. Hit him.
Hey, that wasn't me that said that. I don't want the Clintons coming after me. I'm just saying.
Right.
It was out there. I'm just repeating. So.
Yeah, the Clintons, listen, they're wrapped up in the Clintons and the Bushes both. If you look up any conspiracy in the time that they were alive, those two families are wrapped up in it. Like, that's
Bill
not
was
our
on
fault.
that Epstein plane a lot of times, according to the log. That's all I'm going to say. He may or may not have been on the island. And he may or may not have been talked about in our Johnny Gosh episode with the Franklin scandal. So really, if it's pretty crazy how many times his name comes up in these things.
I'm telling you, the Clintons and the Bushes both, man. There's just something weird about that. The whole family, they come up too often. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, too ingrained, been around too long in politics, and they don't even know what normal is at this point.
Right.
So yeah, as we mentioned, the ferrymen on these boats would cozy up to the marks and tip off George as to which ones, and also even direct these marks to George. Like, look for my guy over here on the Brooklyn Bridge next to the for sale sign.
Yeah, they're probably getting some kickback, huh?
Right. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure George was throwing him a little cash for
that's the gig to have, right? Fee. To be the bus driver, right. It's like you're not really doing anything. You're just like pushing people in a certain direction, making a little extra.
Yeah, you
dough.
Could always play ignorant too. Like, I didn't know that he didn't own the bridge. How am I supposed to know?
God, don't come after me.
I almost bought it myself.
Right. I thought it was a great opportunity. I'm just trying to help people out.
But I don't make enough on the ferry to buy it.
Right. Exactly.
Not that he had really a steep price on it. He would take pretty much whatever people would offer.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't going to turn down some free money.
Oh no, of course not.
So yeah, once the marks came his way, Parker would then take over with what could only be described as a well-rehearsed con. He did his research and had phony forged documents and deeds showing him as the owner of the Brooklyn Bridge. So yeah, he had some documents written up. Yeah. And pretty much that's all anybody needed.
Anybody with a typewriter could do that.
papers,
Yeah.
I, George C. Parker, own said Brooklyn Bridge.
Right. As of today.
Say it and it shall be so.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like you said, you had a bunch of gullible people coming in, and there was it's not like you could Google it and find out who the owner of the bridge was. Man, right. People were at a huge disadvantage.
Can't
then.
Snopes it.
No.
Yeah, so George would convince the marks that the government was just on the verge of passing a law to make the bridge a toll bridge. I guess that ended up being pretty true. And he was looking for investors to set up booths to collect the tolls. So the investors would keep a percentage and would, in effect, be part owner of the bridge. It was a can't-miss proposal. He was so convincing that many of the marks didn't know they had been had until they were trying to build the toll booths on the bridge.
Can you imagine?
Imagine you got your materials. Dude.
Oh,
you're insulted that someone's coming up to you and telling you can't do that. Like, obviously, you break out your papers from him. Like, look, I am part owner of this bridge.
Right.
You need to back off, sir.
They're like, what? You pull up with like a horse buggy full of fucking wood and shit, right. Like, just acting like you're about to get ready and make $1 million. Oh man, that's got to be so disappointing.
Right.
That must have been rough.
Yeah, I wonder how many times he got confronted by these people that got conned by him. Like, because he hung around the bridge for 30 fucking years. He had to have been confronted by some of these guys.
That's what I'm saying too. Because look, okay, let's say you're a newcomer, right? You got what you have on you. You're trying to start a new life in America. Let's say you spend a big chunk of that investing in this bridge. Then you spend another big chunk, maybe all of it, investing in materials and supplies to build this thing. And then you go out there and this is all a ruse and all your fucking money's gone and you just got here.
Oh, you'd be so mad.
Dude, you best bet I'm going to be hanging out by that bridge until I see that motherfucker. Somebody did it. He had to have been confronted. He had to have changed. He had to have been all the time changing his identity.
Wouldn't that be ironic if he got thrown off the bridge that he sold to a bunch of people by one of the people he sold it to?
Oh, shit.
That would be pretty funny.
That'd be sweet justice, though. I mean, you can't do that shit to people.
Right.
You can't do that shit to people.
Yeah. So George even got so bold at one point that he decided to pin a for sale sign on a pillar on the bridge. So much like you would put on a vehicle you wanted to sell in your driveway.
Right. Just pin it right on the bridge.
Yeah.
Just let people drive by and see it. Oh, this bridge is for sale, honey. Did you know that? just a guy standing there waving at you with a brochure. Yeah, come on over.
We're doing a Groupon this week for the Brooklyn Bridge.
Oh, damn.
So, yeah, near the sign would be George, a well-dressed man wearing a bow tie and flat cap. He would introduce himself as the owner of the bridge and work his magic.
There you go.
Parker supposedly knew the schedule of the policemen as well that worked the bridge. So I picture they had like a bridge guy who would kind of go up and down the bridge, police officer, and he kind of knew the time. It would probably take him an hour to get from one end to the other or something along those lines. And so he knew when the guy was getting close, he'd take the sign down, that type of thing.
Yeah, rip down the sign, shove it in your coat pocket, just stand there.
Yeah, was that game Rainbow Six, or what was those games back in the day where you had like the light would come and you'd have to kind of hide in the shadows, and then the guard would walk past and then you could go behind him and maneuver around like that.
Something like Metal Gear Solid.
Metal Gear Solid. There you go. Yeah, that's the one I was looking for.
So, dude, I did not have the patience for those games when I was younger, man. I'm like,
There's a lot of
fuck
waiting,
this. I'm
right?
going Leroy Jenkins and shooting all these. And
I can take him. You just run right up to him.
Yeah, you're like, yeah, definitely can't take him.
Yeah. Now, even though he had he knew the schedule, the policemen and stuff like that, he still was arrested several times. And I'm sure it was because some of the marks that he had gotten came back and pointed him out to the police and whatnot. And so he would be arrested several times, and he would even have a daring escape at one point. What good is a case that we do without an escape from jail or prison at some point?
Yeah, I mean,
this one's pretty funny too.
Listen, if you weren't escaping in the late 1800s, early 1900s from jail,
weren't
then
trying.
you weren't trying. You weren't
Exactly.
trying. You're just.
This example shows you just how easy it really was back then. Dude,
it was so easy. You look at all the different people we had that escaped from prison in those times.
Yeah.
But let's go on with this. This is probably one of the easiest ones.
Right.
This is like a movie.
Yeah. So on New Year's Day in 1908, George was behind bars at the Raymond Street Jail when the sheriff at the time made a diplomatic trip to greet the guards and the inmates. New Year's Day trip, checking out the jail. Hey guys, how's everybody doing? Even being nice to the inmates. And when he got in there, it was a little cold outside, and he took off his coat once he got indoors and his hat and sat it down. Parker smoothly slipped on the jacket and the hat and walked right out of the jail unabated.
How?
So they just assumed he was the sheriff leaving, I suppose, whoever was working the front counter or whatever.
But what did they, I don't understand how this worked, right? Did they just let all the prisoners out into like a conference room and they're like, oh, we're having a luncheon with the sheriff? Like he's coming.
Yeah, I guess.
How did this?
They figured the sheriff was there, so nobody's going to try anything funny with him there, so they just kind of let everybody roam around. I don't know.
Wow. That is one naive sheriff.
Right.
Right?
Probably wasn't naive after that, being made a fool of.
Oh, God. Can you imagine? Then they don't let him out. They're like, sir, where's your badge? It was in my coat.
Then he had to walk home in the cold because he had no jacket, just added insult to injury.
Oh, man. I know he was pissed.
Right. Yeah, so he was free and thus began his scamming yet again, and he'd be free for many years. He made a full-on career out of this. Just about retired, before he was finally taken down for good.
Yeah.
He was able to make, as I said, a lifelong career out of parting suckers from their hard-earned cash. According to Parker, he claimed to have sold the bridge twice a week for 30 years and made anywhere from $50 to $5,000 per sale.
Wow. Dude, let's just say he sold it twice a week for just $50. Imagine how much money he made.
That's a lot of money.
At that time.
That's a lot of money.
$100 a week for fake selling a bridge? That dude was freaking rolling in the early 1900s. And then there were some times he made $5,000.
You'd think if you got $5,000 from one, you'd have to lay low for a little while. That dude is going to be on the verge of murder, homicidal. If you that kind of money in the 1800s, $5,000, that's like someone's entire life savings. That's all. That's like a lot of money now, let alone back then. That's everything you got back then, unless you're very well off somehow. But you had to find this sweet spot for people that were gullible, but also had made money somehow, or I guess had been given money. Maybe probably the perfect people would be young people who had inherited money and hadn't made that money, because it just seems like if you were able to make that much money back then, that you were too smart to fall for buying a bridge for $50,
Right, but I think he's also preying on new immigrants as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Immigrants who are trying to make a name, immigrants
There's probably a language barrier.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. And then they meet the first person they meet is this friendly businessman who's trying to help them out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I think there's a little bit of that as well.
Yeah. You know what? Be on edge anytime you go into a new country or new city and the first person you meet near the airport or at the airport, if they're overly friendly and trying, asking you for money in any way, offering you some kind of opportunity, be very weary.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like, I remember we went to Cabo San Lucas. I went there last year for a wedding, and at the airport, like, there were so many people that were trying to get us to go with them. Like, and we're like, we were told right away, because we were taking this certain shuttle, and we're like, have basically laser vision and find the people with this colored flowered shirt that says this on it and get on the bus. Do not talk to anyone, because there was a million people trying to get us to like get on their buses, and they're like, I don't know where you're going to take us.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. You got to be careful.
Hell yeah. I bet. Shit. What do they want? They just want more people on their bus line, or their intentions are unknown?
They're trying to take, I think most of them were trying to take you to their hotel, and then they're going to charge you, absorbent amount to stay at their hotel when we had already paid said hotel and said shuttle. And they were trying to convince us that we were supposed to get on their bus, and we were not. But they know damn well that we're not supposed to. But once they get us on there, then they can charge us and whatnot.
Exactly. Okay.
And maybe even a small percentage of them may not be taking us to a hotel at all. Maybe taking out to the who knows where, the desert to rob us or something.
Yeah. Or trafficking.
Yeah, who knows? But yeah, you got to be careful when you go to new places and you don't really know how things work yet. People would take advantage of that.
No doubt. But at least we're at an advantage now where we can do some research ahead of time. If you're traveling somewhere new and not doing research, you're just being dumb.
I've heard around the landmarks in France and stuff, in certain parts of Europe, if you're an American that go over there, be very careful with your possessions. There's very good pickpocketers and such like that, like anywhere on trains and buses, and when you're walking around, say like the Leaning Tower of Pisa, stuff like that, there's a lot of scammers down there, I've heard.
Ah, that makes sense. They're doing the old school scams.
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting.
They'll grab your wallet right out of your pocket and you won't even know.
Dude, yeah. That's why I always keep my wallet in my front pocket. You know what I mean? I feel like it's a lot harder to get in there.
Better for your back too. Anytime I get into
doubt.
I sit down, my wallet comes out. Like when I get in a car, you don't want to be leaning like that. It's bad for your spine.
Oh, terrible for your spine. That's why I started carrying it in my front pocket.
Yeah, there was a Seinfeld episode about that. George's wallet was like the size of a brick because he had like 1 million receipts from like 20 years old.
Yeah.
It was like he had a bad back, and he found out it was because of his wallet.
Yeah, that stuff's for real, man. That's a joke, but that stuff's for real.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a job where you sit down a lot.
Right. Yeah, so as we mentioned, Parker claims to have been selling the bridge for twice a week for 30 years and made quite a bit of money and basically made a career out of it. And the scam worked so well that he even tried it on other landmarks and successfully. He, at some point, sold the Metropolitan Museum of Art, the Statue of Liberty, and Madison Square Garden.
How the hell do you sell the Statue of Liberty then? Everybody fucking knows that's a gift from the French.
I know, right?
They had to have known it even more then.
Probably not French immigrants,
You don't think the French knew they gave that to us?
No, I'm saying they probably weren't French immigrants because they would know, But if they were from, another country, they may not know.
God, I feel like other countries knew about that shit. That's just such a
Some
big
of them
thing.
may have just thought, man, this may be a scam, but if it's not, this could set me up forever. Like I just bought Madison Square Garden. If I really did just buy it for $50, man, I'm set for life.
If I really did, it's worth it just in case.
Right.
I mean, probably didn't, but if I did.
It's worth the chance.
Okay.
High risk, high reward.
Okay.
Or low risk, high reward, I would say. And the $50 is a lot back then, but still, to buy Madison Square Garden, it's not so bad.
Chump change.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, George's biggest scam, however, was posing as the grandson of former President Ulysses S. Grant.
Oh.
He went to the wealthy investors pretending to be former president's next of kin, lamenting that he could not complete repairs on Grant's tomb. Grant was so revered as the hero of the Union, and investors flocked to give money to ensure his tomb was kept in working good order.
That's messed up.
It's really messed up when you're capitalizing on someone's death like that.
He's playing on the patriotism of the people of the North, and also, I mean, imagine that too, being an immigrant and wanting to be an American. Right, and you want to support American ideals and things like that, and then somebody comes to you with this, and they're like, "Well, who's Ulysses S. Grant?" And we're like, "Oh, he's the hero of the Civil War, don't you know?"
You probably wouldn't think anyone would have the balls to do something so cruel,
Exactly. Like who would dare? How dare you take the name of Ulysses S. Grant in vain? Right?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he was on the right side of things.
Yep. Yeah, and this stuff was going well for him, and it was actually bad checks that brought him down. And so in 1928, at 68 years old, so as we said, a long, fruitful career of scamming came to an end at 68 years old. I'd almost say it was worth it, really. I think if he looked back, he'd be like, yeah, I would do it again. 68 is a pretty good retirement age. Now I got to spend time in prison, and that's where he'll die. But, it's a good run. Damn good run.
Very good run. And I mean, like you said, at 68, I mean, shit, he was probably planning on being dead by then.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Living
Not
in that
too many
time.
people in the 1800s lived that old.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, damn, I had a fun life. Lived my life, didn't have to work hard. Has probably a lot of good stories to tell. I mean, there's probably so much information out there that we don't know, Yeah,
that we never got.
Guy. Oh, man. Think about all the successful shit that went off without a hitch. That's the shit that history don't know.
Yeah. And so he got taken down by a $120 bad check that he had passed, He was taken down for his 4th fraud charge, and under a new statute at the time, it was 4 strikes and you're out. So basically, if you had 4 fraud charges, you were done. And he was then sent to Sing Sing prison, where he died behind bars in 1936.
And so he spent almost 10 years behind bars.
Yeah, so then he was 78 years old or 77, something like that.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, it's like 76. Yeah, that's a good run. That's like average age for men, even up until now. Just
right.
about. I think it's like the average age is like 78 or something.
Right. Yeah, he lived a long life, man.
Yep. Yeah, wow. So that's George C. Parker. That's the reason why, if you've ever heard that saying, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you. That's where it came from.
I can't believe in 1928 he gets caught for passing a bad check when Frank Abagnale was doing that shit in the 70s with no problem.
Yeah, you know what? Frank, I think, was a lot better at it.
Apparently. But how much better? I mean, I feel like because of the security and because of where we were in the time in the 20s, I feel like you don't even have to be that good at it.
True.
He must have just got real brazen with it, or maybe someone spotted him. They're like, hey, there's the guy that wrote me that bad check,
Yeah.
I don't know. Because he did seem to stay around New York, right?
He hung around the bridge a lot. A lot of the monuments, he hung around a lot.
That was his mistake, man. If he would have traveled around.
I wonder if he changed his image a lot. If he switched his hair color up, or like his facial hairstyle and his clothes, if he really kind of rotated that to kind of avoid detection a little bit more.
I'm sure he did that.
You would think.
I'm sure he did that. But he should have traveled. If he really wanted to make this a lifelong thing and not go to... But then again, who am I to talk? I mean, he only spent the last 8 years of his life in prison for years and years of pulling this
hell of a run. 30-year run selling a bridge that he didn't own, man. That's a pretty good run.
That's a damn good run. Yeah. Who am I to talk?
Yeah.
Good work.
So let's talk about our next guy. This is the second part of this case. The second part of our first part of our series here of Scam Artist. And we're going to go on to Charles Lewis Blood. I want to thank hollywest.com for a great article written on Charles Lewis Blood.
Nice.
He was born on September 8th, 1835, and he identified throughout his life as Dr. C.L. Blood or C.L. Blood, M.D.
That's perfect, because like we talked about in one of the other episodes, he has one of those last names that matches up, right? Because he acted like that he dealt with blood issues. And they're like, well, damn, this dude's last name is Blood. I mean...
Right. It must be in the family, right?
Right. It must be a family thing. His family,
and that's also
studied.
That's also what he tried to convince people of, was that it was in the family. He called himself these things, being doctor and MD, because he told people he was the son of a physician, Dr. Lewis Blood. Mm-hmm. Neither was true. He was not a doctor, and his father was not a doctor. His father was actually Lewis Blood, a successful farmer, timber dealer, contractor, and prominent citizen in Massachusetts. And that's what's pretty sad about it, is that there was nothing to be ashamed about with his bloodlines. His father was a very successful, important man in Massachusetts.
Here's the problem, though. His dad was a worker. I guarantee it. And he was like, I
don't want to do all that work.
Ain't no fucking way. I'm being a farmer and a timber dealer, a.k.a. lumberjack, contractor, a.k.a. carpenter. No way I'm doing that kind of fucking hard work when I can just take my last name and sell people air. That's good for their blood. You know what I'm saying?
And their lungs. Heals all of their ailments.
Right.
This good old air that we have here.
Hey, the miracle treatment, man. People have been selling it for ages. They're still selling it now. There's tons of pyramid scams going on now with that shit.
I mean, to be fair, we can't live without it, right?
To be fair.
To be fair, you must have air to breathe.
Right.
As to his own medical credentials, those were fabricated, much like his fictitious father's. C.L. Blood arrived in Boston from Philadelphia in 1865, established an office, and so you pretty much could just proclaim you were a doctor back then, write up some fake documents, and you were a doctor at that point.
Dude, it's like the invention of lying. It really is. Have you seen that movie with Ricky Gervais?
Nope.
Dude, you got to watch that movie. Highly recommend it. It's on Netflix. But it's like during this time, that's what it reminds me of. In the late 1800s, it's like when lying was first becoming a thing. Because people just didn't lie, I guess. They just took people on their word, their documents. It's like, well, if your knowledge will come through in your actions, right? Your knowledge will come through in your reputation. But when somebody makes up their reputation and then tells you what all their actions are, there you go. Like you can just make up your own resume. There's no fact checking. There's no, let me look him up on Facebook. You know, there was no way of doing any of this. It really was the invention of lying, it seemed like at that time.
Yeah, man. Medical was the medical practicing back in the those times, 1700s, 1800s, was pretty scary.
Oh God, yes.
Between
But
the education that they had, and then there was a lot of phonies out there,
yeah.
and some of the stuff that they were experimenting with, like lobotomies and things like that. Pretty fucking scary time.
Well, one thing I learned about, I took this medical class in college, and one of the first things they told us, they said, one thing you have to understand when studying medical things is that it's called medical practice for a reason, because we're still practicing. Like, none of this is set in stone. None of this is the best way to treat. I mean, maybe it is, but most likely it's not. It's medical practice, and we've been practicing figuring out things about humans and the way we work for years and years and years. So if you think about what we know now, I mean, we only knew a fraction of that in the late 1800s. So it really explains why these people were looking for these miracle ailments. They had, they had shit to do. They had lives to get back to.
Yep. Yeah, so when C.L. Blood arrived in Boston from Philadelphia in 1865 and opened his office, he began promoting his medical services in full-page newspaper ads. He developed an interest in the use of nitrous oxide, or laughing gas, as an anesthetic, and even learned how to manufacture it. He then claimed it as his own invention, calling it oxygenized air, and promoting it as a cure for tuberculosis and other respiratory tract diseases that were running rampant back then in the early days.
That's crazy.
A lot of tuberculosis going on. Laughing gas, what you get at the dentist to kind of help you with your anxiety and your pain when you're being worked on, which I actually asked my wife about this because she's a dental hygienist. And I was like, do you guys use nitrous oxide? And she said, no. Her office, her doctor that she works for doesn't believe in it. She doesn't like it because it's really hard to work on somebody when they have that thing over their nose.
Right.
And they don't, she's like, it doesn't do anything. It's like, I guess it has to do something. It obviously calms people's nerves and helps with the pain or whatever, but certainly isn't curing any lung diseases.
No. Have you ever had it? Have you ever experienced it?
I believe so, a long time ago. I don't know. I haven't had that much work done. I did have wisdom teeth removed, but I think they just knocked me out with a sedative or whatever back then.
Yeah, I've never experienced laughing gas before, so I was curious if you had. But I wouldn't think it would be a great way to operate on someone. I know it kind of puts them out of it in a way, but I feel like they're still moving and shit, right? They're still reacting to different things.
It just puts them at ease. It actually helps a lot with anxiety, I guess. If someone's real anxious, if they're the type that's scared of the dentist and whatnot, it can help with that. But
okay.
It kind of just makes you wacky. I think it kind of like messes with your brain a little bit. It's very temporary. It's like it wears off within minutes.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen all those videos online where people are, waking up from wisdom tooth operations or dental operations.
I think that's less of the laughing gas and more of just the insane medications they're put on, like the pain medications and stuff. Because I was out of it so bad after I had my wisdom teeth removed. I was very angry and like. I was not as funny as like a lot of the people you see. I was very mean to my wife and my mom.
Oh shit!
Because I was just like in agony. Like I had so much stuff draining. I had all four removed at once, and they were compacted. So I just picture they were probably like had their foot on my face with like pliers and were just yanking these things out of my teeth or out of my mouth when I was sleeping. Oh, I was in hell for a couple days.
That's what I've heard, man. I've heard that and you're just thinking like personally, you're in so much pain, you don't have time or the attention span to think about anything else.
Yeah, it was confusion. I was so out of it from the drugs, and then also I was in a ton of pain and just couldn't eat. I couldn't really eat any food. I had to everything had to be liquid, so I was just very angry.
I bet.
Yeah.
I bet. Damn.
So he extensively advertised his ability to cure all diseases of the blood and lungs by means of his air, which he administered at his practice. A page would answer the calls of visitors at his door and usher them to an elegantly furnished reception area to await the appearance of blood from his consultation room. So he had this. He intentionally made this very elaborate and elegant setting at his office. He paid these lemmings to work for him, and make this thing seem like this huge practice, and like he was very busy, and you were very lucky to be seeing him and his magic air. Like
most of these con artists, one thing I don't get, especially ones that come from successful families like him, all this work you're putting into this fake ploy, couldn't you have just invested this time and energy in one of your dad's businesses and like been a legit businessman that wouldn't have to live in fear or have this constant, what if I get found out?
We've talked about this a few times, right? With like H.H. Holmes, for instance. That dude was a brilliant man. Like the stuff he pulled off,
Yeah.
the hotel that he designed, all the different traps and stuff that he had set up, and like all the different ruses that he worked on. It's like this dude could have been uber successful as just a normal businessman.
No doubt.
What was it about him that, you know? I guess he just had some level of mental disorder where he got off on stealing from people. Like he got a rush from it, and also was a murderer. You know, there was just something that was off in his brain.
Yeah.
Same as Ted Bundy. Dude's very smart. Obviously, went to law school, things like that, and very cunning, and could have been successful had he directed his energy elsewhere as opposed to murdering women.
Yeah, no doubt. But I mean, those guys, like, they're broken. But these guys seem like they just wanted money. These con artists is what I'm saying.
Right.
And what better? I mean, wouldn't it be nice if you could get the same amount of money and then not have to be looking over your shoulder all the time? But
I don't know. I think with Blood though, I think and with Parker, I think there was a level of they got excitement out of the whole idea.
Yeah, it was adrenaline rush, right? Pulling it over on somebody.
Yeah.
Okay, made them feel a little bit like a bigger person.
There's been really rich celebrities who have been caught stealing from stores. You know, like who was it? The actress that years ago got caught shoplifting, and it's just like you don't need to shoplift. You're a millionaire, you know. And there's something. There must be something in certain people that they get that high out of, you know, theft and getting over on people.
Yeah, kleptos, man.
Yeah,
kleptos.
So. Blood, as we mentioned, he employed all these different people to make it seem like he was a big deal. And while in Boston, he gained a rival. This is a pretty interesting part of this story. He gets this rival by the name of Dr. Jerome Harris, who also applies nitrous oxide, but under the name of super oxygenized air.
Oh, shit. His air's super. You're fucked.
He went up to him. You got oxygenized air. I got super oxygenized air, bro.
It's like, oh, no, you did. I would
just put another super before it. Like, I got super oxygenized air, bitch.
Oh. People are just looking at, I can just see him looking in the phone book. Well, this guy here says he has super oxygenized air, Karen. Let's go check him out.
So, and also, unlike Blood, Harris was actually a trained physician.
Oh.
Although he was a physician that capitalized on Blood's popularity by operating his practice from Blood's old quarters on Chauncey Lane. So he was really ripping him off. He took the oxygenized air thing, added a super to it, and then he took over his old office that he had moved on from and started basically working the old customers in the area.
Oh. And he was a real doctor.
Yeah. But he was still doing some phony shit, trying to convince people that this oxygenized air was curing their problems.
Well, listen, but that's just supply and demand. If he had people coming to him being like, "Hey, I want the air treatment. I don't care if the fuck what you got. I don't care what you know how to do. I want the air treatment." He's like, "Well, give the people what they want. I mean, I can give them laughing gas too and call it whatever the hell I want. I guess I will. I don't really blame this guy, to be honest."
Yeah.
You know, I don't really blame him.
If you don't blame him, then you can't really blame CL Blood either for what he was doing, I guess.
Well, I blame Blood because he's not a doctor. And then also he made all this shit up. He fooled all these people. And he was basically giving these people a placebo. It only lasted so long because they wanted it to work. And he told them that it was working. Mm-hmm. So that's why they kept doing it. And so these people, they bought into that whole scam, that belief system. Like he actually made this type of air treatment into an actual practice. I mean, an actual, treatment for people, like a legit thing that people actually believed. You see what I'm saying? Right. Like without that, then Jerome wouldn't even be offering this. He's just offering it because I guarantee you it was a supply and demand type thing.
Right. Yeah, there's a level of placebo effect where it's arguable that it has positive effects because of the mental state and how important the mind is and how important it is to stay positive. If you're stressed and you're negatively thinking every day, if you believe something is working, then there is a positive effect physically for you as well. Yes. So there's something to be said about, you know, people that are treating you and it may not be legit, but if it makes you feel better, if the person believes that it's working, then it does have positive effects.
Yes,
and that it puts you under the belief that you are getting better, and that can help your body a lot. Actually, just being positive.
Yes, the brain is extremely powerful when it comes to healing.
Yeah, so there's a fine line there. It's tricky, you know. It's like if you are telling people you're curing their tuberculosis with this air, then you're a fucking asshole, in my opinion, because you must know that you're not curing them. But at the same time, if it makes them feel better, I don't know. It's kind of a tricky thing.
Right. I guess it depends. If there is no other way to make them feel better,
Yes,
then I get the
that's a
placebo.
good point.
But if
That's
there
a good
is
point.
something that can help them and truly give them their life back and heal them, and then you're giving them this placebo, then I think you're an asshole.
If they're doing your oxygenized air instead of doing real treatment that could be helping them, and you know this, then you're a criminal at that point, I think.
Exactly.
So one day in this winter of 1866 to 1867, Dr. Harris, who was the guy who was kind of ripping off CL Blood and working out of his old office and stuff, was visited by a guy by the name of Mr. Carville. He had a bronchial complaint and specifically requested Harris's super oxygenized air treatment, the state-of-the-art stuff that everyone was talking about. Mm-hmm. The air was administered, and in a moment, Carville began frothing at the mouth and rolling on the floor, his contortions lasting about an hour. So he gets this super oxygenized air, and he's apparently having a seizure and maybe dying from it. Finally, Harris sent his patient home after he came to from his convulsions, whereupon Carville called for the services of his own physician, who turned out to be CL Blood.
Oh, shit. He's like, have you tried the air treatment? Yes! Right. God damn it, don't do the air treatment.
Well, no, he's like, that super oxygenized air is no good. I need just the regular stuff, man. The regular oxygenized air. That super stuff messed me up.
Get that super stuff out of here. It's too much. Look at him frothing. That's what happens when you get too much air.
If you can't tell what's going on here, it's clear that Mr. Carville was in cahoots with CL Blood, and this was a ruse, a blackmail scheme to make it look like a super oxygenized air was no good and it was dangerous, and he was basically trying to get
right.
He was trying to get his competition out of the mix, because the next day the newspapers described Harris's supposed poisoning of Carville by the administering of his super oxygenized air and the subsequent relief afforded by the patient to the patient by blood and his regular oxygenized air. So the super stuff messed him up, but then he went back to his good old original doctor, CL Blood, and he gave him the regular oxygenized air, which saved him. And so everybody should clearly go to CL Blood for his oxygenized air.
Of course.
You know.
Course,
that
not a
super
real
stuff is dangerous.
That's right.
Blood saw to it that the public were kept aware of the supposedly continual improvement of the patient under his care and reassured them of his harmlessness of his own oxygenized air.
Oh my God.
Carville subsequently brought suit against Harris. So Carville ended up even suing him for his super oxygenized air, treatment.
Blood's behind that too.
Well, of course, that's basically the whole idea of suing him, was to keep it in the public, keep headlines about it,
right?
And you have to think that CL paid him mightily for this to kind of get rid of this guy.
Oh, for sure.
And so, though Harris was anxious to settle with Carville, his legal counsel advised him not to pay, claiming it was a blackmail scheme. They were very wise to believe that. Mm-hmm. The case finally fell through, but Harris was frightened and left the city, after which Blood's business prospered. So the competition was gone, and Blood could be the only guy giving out his oxygenized air. Super oxygenized air was out of the picture at that point.
Damn, I was about to say, either way, even though they were caught with the blackmail scheme, hey, it was still a success.
Right.
CL Blood don't give a shit. People think he's trying to blackmail people. He is killing it.
Yeah, until he was actually convicted of blackmail, tax evasion, and fraud, which included the publication of a book called A Century of Life, Health, and Happiness, a compendium of medical information for the home. That was his book that he wrote. And keep in mind, he was not a physician and never went to medical school. He was a phony, and he writes this book about that. And he was brought down by an investor that alleged that Blood had defrauded him of $215 when the author failed to provide him with comprised copies of the book. So he never got the copies that he purchased. And Blood would be sentenced to several years in prison for this and his other crimes. But it was his involvement in the moida. We had to do some moida,
Yeah.
The murder of a man named Hiram Sawtell was Blood's most sinister crime, allegedly. He was seemingly involved in this murder, and he was never brought up on charges for it. There was another couple people that were involved, one of which was Hiram's brother, who was directly involved and ended up getting convicted. So let's talk about this.
Okay.
Hiram was a fruit seller that lived in Boston with his mother and his family when his brother Isaac, who was released from prison after securing a pardon for his rape conviction. So he's got this rapist brother named Isaac who was in prison, who happened to be in prison with CL Blood, and they made this acquaintance together while in prison. And so the brother Isaac gets out of jail off his rape charges, and the brothers entered into a dispute concerning their late father's estate. So he gets out of jail, and he's a rapist, and he comes to his brother about their estate. You know, their dad had died, and we've talked about this recently in our lottery winners episode. You know, families after a loved one dies and who gets what, and a lot of times it causes this big divide between family members because they get greedy and whatnot. And that was what was going on.
That's right.
Because though the property was in their mother's name, Hiram had been managing it while Isaac was in prison, and Isaac was desperate to gain control of it. Isaac Sawtelle met C.L. Blood in prison, as I had mentioned, and Blood offered to engineer Hiram's cooperation for a $500 fee. So he's going to get Hiram to basically give Isaac what he wants as far as the estate's concerned by force, if he has to, for $500. Bringing a third convict into the plan as well to help. That's always good when you meet different people in prison and then you go, create schemes with them. They're so trustworthy, you know?
Right. It's always good to network, you know? Utilize the people and resources around you.
Exactly. So Isaac abducted Hiram's daughter that's so messed up. So this is his niece. He abducts.
Right.
In order to lure Hiram to a remote camp in Maine where Blood and his accomplice, the other prison person they had met, would force him to sign over the property. Things did not go to plan, however. I guess Hiram was not willing to sign over the property, and one of the men shot Hiram 4 times. They proceeded then to undress, decapitate, and partially dismember him, then buried his headless body in a shallow grave just across the state line in New Hampshire.
Jesus Christ, that escalated quickly. Who were these other convicts that they got? He must have got some fucking cold-blooded killers to be the muscle.
That's what I'm saying. You just don't know necessarily who you're dealing with. You know, they may say they did this benign crime or whatever, but unless you're getting their paperwork and you finding out what they really did, they could be a cold-blooded murderer and just saying that they are in there for robbery or whatever.
Yeah, because I don't see CL Blood doing this. I know this guy was a con man, but most of the time con men don't want to get their hands dirty. Not in that way.
Right.
He enlisted some serious criminals for this mission, man. And I bet Isaac didn't give up, man, because he wasn't going to give up this because he probably saw his brother there and was like, my brother's not going to kill me. Like, it's not going to go to that point.
Right. Well, he was wrong.
He was, yes, he was.
Very wrong.
He was quite wrong. His brother
if your
changed
brother
a lot
is
in prison.
Just the fact that your brother was willing to kidnap his niece and your daughter in order to get you to this isolated location should have told you, maybe he's a little more serious about this than I thought.
And he's a rapist. If I knew my rapist brother kidnapped my daughter, I would be going in there fucking guns blazing. Guns ablazing, bro.
Right?
That's it. There ain't going to be no discussion. Like, I'm not going to be the one. If I get killed, that's fine, but I'm taking his ass with me.
Exactly. After Hiram's disappearance, his wife immediately suspected that Isaac had murdered him and notified the police. 10 days after the murder, Hiram's body was discovered. Isaac was arrested with 2 train tickets to Montreal, one of which was thought to be for Blood. Blood's picture was circulated, and he was recognized by a hotelier who reported that Blood had been carrying 2 bundles, one of which was wrapped in newspaper and, quote, about the size of a man's head. So they're speculating that maybe C.L. Blood had been carrying around the man's head. I don't know why he would do that.
I know, right?
Keep that luggage with him. I don't see what advantage that would have.
Also, why would you carry it just in newspaper? Like, if you had a head, if you are carrying the head, why not wrap it in newspaper and then put it in a bag or something? You're just carrying it around like a dang, like a ball of newspaper.
Maybe he was an avid bowler or something. I don't know.
Why would you wrap your bowling ball in newspaper? Even that doesn't make any sense.
That doesn't make any sense either, right?
It's just a weird scene, man. It's a weird scene.
So Isaac Sawtelle would end up being charged with conspiracy and the murder of his brother Hiram. While awaiting trial, he confessed to plotting to intimidate Hiram into signing the property over, but denied taking any part in the murder. He claimed that Blood owed Hiram a good deal of money and killed him to escape the debt. Despite the hotelier's statements and Isaac's confession, Blood was never questioned by the police, and Isaac would be convicted of his brother's murder and sentenced to death, but he ended up dying of natural causes shortly before his scheduled execution. Blood himself, C.L. Blood, died at the age of 73 of an unknown illness. Though he was buried in the family plot, his widow and surviving sisters chose not to add his name to their family memorial, knowing what a piece of shit he was.
Wow. But he lived, but he never went to prison.
That's what I'm saying. He did do time.
Well,
but,
a little bit.
It was another long, fruitful life of scamming. If you were a scam artist back in the 1800s, you could that could be your profession. You could pretty much live a whole life on that.
Yeah,
usually before you were finally convicted at an old age and kind of died in prison or whatever. But
yeah. Now all the scam artists are on the internet.
yeah,
We don't even know who
for
they
sure.
are.
Yep.
Well, holy crap. Wow, what a time. What a time to be alive.
What a time, man. And it's it's kind of sad that there's so many people in ancient history and all the way up until I would say the 20th century, there was so little note keeping by your average person. Of course, like we've talked about before, the victors of wars and whatnot like that wrote the story.
Yeah.
But like just the average person, all the stories that will never be told because there was just no documentation of it. It's pretty sad to think about.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, think about
They
all
just
this.
died with them, their stories,
Exactly. And they want to document these things, but imagine what a problem that would be. See, now that's I think advantage that we have now is that everyone takes pictures of everything. It's like, did you even do it if you didn't post on some form of social media? It's like, did it even happen? Because you're going to forget it. But think about now as humans how often we feel like I should take a picture of this, or I should document this, or I should tell someone about this experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like we feel like that all the time. I think that sense has always been with humanity. It's always been with people.
For sure.
Always.
I mean, it was letters. It was letters for a long time. If you want to go down a really deep rabbit hole, you could go start looking, like reading through letters from soldiers in the Civil War, soldiers in World War I, World War II, that they wrote back to their families, man, and they can just rip you apart at times, especially when you find out, like, oh, the soldier died the next day, and this was his last letter home, and he knew it. Yeah. Like, tomorrow I'm going on this mission, and it's probably the end. Like, that kind of stuff, man, it's so fascinating and odd. You feel like you're in their shoes in that moment when you're reading that letter, and in their family members, their poor wife that gets that letter, and their kids later on read it and that type of thing. It's just crazy to think.
Yeah, that's some brutal stuff, man.
Yeah. But you know what soldiers on the battlefield wish they had, I'm sure, was some Oh My Gaia.
Oh, no doubt.
Back in the day. They really would have helped life in the trenches.
It would have really
be
helped
a little more tolerable.
Right. And hopefully it wouldn't give away their position because Oh My Gaia is not an overbearing scent. So
right.
I think they'll be fine. They just won't be, making their bunkmates uncomfortable.
Well, back in those days, they pretty much most of the time they knew the position. They were like 100 feet away in a bunker. The other side was in their bunker, and it was just kind of like you're staring at each other.
Right. You're taking turns throwing grenades and shooting at people who stick
their heads up. There was that story in World War I where the two sides they got out of the trenches and actually like hung out together and played soccer and stuff. It was Christmas Eve.
Yeah.
During World War I. And that happened, and it went on for like a day or two, and then obviously the commanders and the leadership of each side were like, get in your fucking trenches and kill each other.
What the fuck are you doing? Can't leave you guys unattended for 5 days. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, but yeah, so you mentioned if they had Oh My Gaia. Oh My Gaia, if you guys don't know, is an innovative, all-natural deodorant, fragrance, and beard oil company specializing in paraben and aluminum-free products. Their innovative line of deodorants inhibit the growth of odor-causing bacteria while maintaining effectiveness. At Oh My Gaia, they use only all-natural, paraben, and aluminum-free organic ingredients. And there's tons of scents to choose from, guys, for your everyday living. You got vanilla, cherry almond, sandalwood, lavender, lemongrass, Egyptian musk, coconut, dreamsicle, leather, lumberjack, honeysuckle, fireside. There are some that started out as limited editions like bergamot amber and became staples because people love them so much. We have our very own scent called True Crime Pine. It's one of our favorites. I always keep a jar of True Crime Pine near. It has our old school podcast logo on there as the sticker seal, so you know that if your jar has been tampered with. But guys, because you are True Crime Guys listeners, you can use the word creeper, CREEPER, for 15% off your order at ohmygaia.com. That's OHMYGAIA.com or at shop_ohmygaia on Instagram. Sorry. But guys, you won't regret it.
Do it.
It's a great...
Do it. You will not regret it. No one's ever told us they weren't happy with their order when they ordered Oh My Gaia and used our code word creeper.
Right.
Wendy's the best. It's the best partnership ever. And she even has incense now, right? Can you buy incense on ohmygaia.com?
I'm pretty sure you can get incense. Like we said, beard oil, scented oil, these types of things. Guys, you can get them in all these scents too. These scents that are rattled off, that's not even all of them. She's constantly experimenting and adding new scents.
Yep.
And if you're a regular and you've made a few orders, a lot of times she'll send you samples of new things that she's got going on, and you can try them out, give her some feedback, maybe find your new favorite scent. That's how
if you make an order. There's no free samples. You have to make an order to get some samples.
Come on, guys. I mean,
this ain't fucking Costco.
Yeah, this isn't Costco. But like that's how I found Egyptian musk actually, because I ordered True Crime Pine and Fireside, I believe, was like my first two that I ordered, and she sent me Egyptian musk, and I was like, oh my God, this is me. This is my scent. I'm sticking with it.
Yep.
So most days I wear Egyptian musk, but I still love True Crime Pine, Fireside. Lumberjack is a great one. What are you rocking today, Lauren?
Barbershop today.
Barbershop, going fresh. Going fresh,
yeah, buddy.
I hear you. Barbershop is a great one. It's got a super cool logo on it, too, with the old barber pole.
Oh, yeah.
I love those old barber poles, man. I'd like to get one of those just hanging in my house.
Right.
Those things are dope.
Do a nice hot shave in the morning.
Yeah.
With a hot rag over your face. That is so underrated, the hot rag over your face after, a clean shave.
I know.
Whew.
And then
Open up the pores.
And then when they pull it off, it's like,
oh, man. Start your day off right.
Like a fresh breeze. Even though I don't close shave very much, like hardly ever, but I feel like I should just to experience that every now and then, at least on the neck, get that neck beard under control.
Right.
All
right. I want to thank everybody that's gone and taken the time to rate and review on iTunes real quick. In the past week, I want to say thank you to Johnson Bob in Canada, who gave us 5 stars and said, really enjoy your podcast. Thank you. John Gilbert in the U.S. suggested Catherine Knight. Said, I found a killer in Australia. She killed, skinned, beheaded, and cooked her husband. We have done Catherine Knight, my friend. Go
Never
find it.
heard of her.
Yeah, right. We have done it. I love it when people suggest stuff, and then we can just literally send them a link. Like, here you go. We already did it like 2 years ago.
Did it. You're welcome.
Yep.
Yeah, of course. Catherine Knight. She killed Pricey, that bitch.
Right. Thank you to PodGod12345. Gave us 4 stars and said, keep the banter to a minimum. Can't do it, buddy. People like it.
No.
But thank you for not 1 star on us. I see, like, when you have some criticism and it's constructive, and then you don't like necessarily like a 1-star podcast. I go 90% of them are not deserving of 1 stars. Like,
right.
It's like that's just if you want to give advice and actually be kind of taken seriously, at least give them a couple stars. It's like we're trying. It has good audio quality. Like maybe it's not your cup of tea, but is it really like worthy of a 1-star review?
Yeah, I feel
it's not like we shit in your coffee this morning. What's the problem?
Right. Exactly. Not like you ordered something and you didn't receive it. That's a 1-star review. Yeah. This is free.
We didn't sell you a bridge and then, and then you try to build a toll booth and you couldn't because you didn't actually own the bridge or something.
Right. Now, I would give that guy a 1-star review.
For sure. Definitely deserving.
Yeah.
Dodgeball01 in the U.S. said, awesome podcast, 5 stars. Thank you. And then Aquaman Fanbex in the U.S. True Crime Gold, 5 stars. Love listening to these guys. Informative and hilarious. Makes my day a little less monotonous and stressful. Keep up the banner, guys. See? Keep up the banner. There we go.
Keep up the banner. That's
a perfect example. We get 1 review that says keep the banter to a minimum, and then three people later it says keep up the banter. So that's what we deal with. You can't please everybody.
No, you can't. That's what it is, man. We just keep doing us. That's what we do.
Yeah, you do you, boo.
That's right.
Let's talk about our other stuff. We got patreon.com/truecrimeguys where you can get a ton of bonus content. 1 episode a month. If you're a new listener and you don't know this, we do 4 episodes a month, but one of them is only available to our patrons, and you can access that by going to patreon.com/truecrimeguys. If you give us $2 a month, you get access to all of that stuff. You'll be in on the monthly giveaway. You'll be able to access all of those episodes we've done, which there's probably 70, 80 of them, and there's even more recordings that were just extra stuff, bonus things. Michael did a whole show called Higher Thoughts for a couple of years. He did that. That's since wrapped up, but you could listen to that whole series. So much stuff is available on there. And if you want to give $5 a month, you get access to the very prestigious gold Creep Van sticker, which people just got last week. All the new $5 patrons got their gold stickers and been posting about it. Very happy. So
right on.
Yeah.
Yep. Right on, guys. Yeah, that's a great way to support True Crime Guys and True Crime Guys Productions, guys, at patreon.com/truecrimeguys. And also, if you are already a patron and you're caught up on True Crime Guys, we have a whole nother show for you called Strange and Unexplained. And you can find that wherever you listen to podcasts. Strange and Unexplained, you can search True Crime Guys as well, and it will most likely pull it up. You'll see the logo has 2 velociraptors on it. It's kind of hard to miss. But in that show, we cover unsolved, missing persons, or just strange cases, strange times in history. Not all of them will be about crimes. I have one episode about eugenics. I have one about the most recent one that will be released, or was just released Monday, rather, is about anthrax, the anthrax attacks in 2001. A lot more to that than I thought there was. Very interesting case there.
Yeah, again, I feel like I have to issue a formal apology because that's the only one so far. You've done, 15 episodes or something, and I've played my role in that, doing Lauren's synopsis on every episode, and I kind of dropped the ball on this one, and I underestimated how deep it went, and I didn't feel prepared when it came time to send my recording. I didn't feel like I had enough information to really give a good synopsis, so I opted out on this one, and I'll do a better job next week and make sure that I have my synopsis ready. But I only gave myself a day to really study it, and I was just like, dude, I don't
There's so much,
feel like
right?
I have a good enough grasp. I feel like I'm going to look like an idiot if I try to give my thoughts on this one if I do it. So
yeah,
that's on me.
There is one scientist, rather, in history, and he was a U.S. scientist who takes a lot of blame for this, and it's still thought of by a lot of people as being the person who sent the letters and sent the anthrax. And we talked about him. And
he ended up killing himself, right?
He did. He did end up killing himself, but he also, that man's past was quite checkered. There was a lot going on there. And in the episode, there's a man called there's an author who wrote a book called The Mirage Man, and it was written about that gentleman in regards to the anthrax killings. And there is a long segment in the podcast where he talks about this scientist's backstory. And
I actually did listen to all that. I watched the video on YouTube of him doing that. He was doing a kind of a, what would you call it, a lecture at a school, right?
Yeah, it's like a TED Talk pretty much, but it was just out of college. It was like a business college.
He talked about that scientist's obsession with that certain frat house or whatever.
Yes.
Was it Kappa Gamma or something like that?
Yes.
And he became obsessed with some girl that smited him, and she wouldn't go out with him, and he broke into her house and stole all of her notes and all that stuff for college. And I think I knew more than I thought, but I still was like, I feel like I'm missing something. I couldn't quite grasp it,
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot to it. That when I first heard about it, I thought I knew a lot about the anthrax stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember those letters going in the mail and everybody being scared and the white powder and blah blah and all this and that. In 2001, it happened right after 9/11. Like all that stuff, I felt like I got, but there was just so much more to that story.
What I was afraid of is that I felt like everything I looked at, everyone was saying this guy's innocent. The FBI's pressure on him and whatnot is the reason he killed himself, and he didn't even do it. And yada yada. I'm like, and I couldn't necessarily find any evidence that he did 100% do it. But so much circumstantial stuff pointed to him, like he had access to it, and he had access to that that strain of it. I don't know, it just seemed, who else has access to it like that? And also, he had like you said, a very checkered past. He shouldn't have even been given that job in the first place.
Right. That's exactly
and so
right.
I just couldn't grasp why so many people thought he was innocent, and maybe it's because they didn't really look into it that much. I don't know.
Well, because it's all circumstantial. I mean, and it's fair. That's the way that our system is set up.
Yes,
I mean, unless it's without a doubt, you can't convict people, and you cannot, at least in my opinion, convict him
but
without
what
a doubt.
they can do is pressure the shit out of you and make your life a living hell to the point where you kill yourself.
Yeah,
apparently.
Yeah, apparently.
Or they were harassing the shit out of him.
Or maybe he killed himself because he knew how close they were getting. Like that's an argument as well.
Supposedly there was a indictment coming for him, right?
Yeah. So, well, if you guys want to check that out, Strange and Unexplained, that new episode just dropped on Monday. There's also a Patreon page for Strange and Unexplained as well as patreon.com/S&U podcast. You guys can get early releases, which are released on Thursdays. And then you also get access to 2 other shows that I do on there, one being the Palate Cleanser podcast and one being Strange Shorts. So lots of True Crime stuff, guys. Lots of stuff under our umbrella now. Lots of content to keep you occupied during this quarantine and at work and during your drives or wherever. And as always, guys, the number one thing you can do for the show is subscribe, listen, download, tell your friends. We appreciate it.
Share it with your friends, yes. Share it on Instagram or Twitter or whatever.
And if you guys share something about us on your story, we will share it on our story as well on True Crime Guys on Instagram. And we appreciate any type of publicity on either show. We've said it numerous times where we are not social media gurus by any stretch of the imagination. We just try to use it to push forward news about the show and let you guys know when things are released and things like that. So
That's right.
We appreciate it very much.
And did you want to talk real quick about next week? It seems as I'm going out of town for the entire weekend, getting away for a bit, going to Utah,
Right.
Up in the mountains, and so I think it looks as though we're not going to have time to record next week. And we've been on quite a run, so it kind of sucks because I feel like we haven't missed an episode this entire year. I feel like last year, the year before, we were taking like every third week off. We were taking a lot of time for ourselves, and then we were like, "What are we doing? We need to be more consistent."
Right.
And we really buckled down, and so. But I was trying to think. I'm just like, I can't find in my schedule this upcoming week, the amount of time that we would need to be able to record.
Right.
So study for the case. So I'm going to be gone from Thursday all the way to Sunday next week. So it's kind of tough.
Well, we have plenty of things that can be released. We will figure out something, whether it's a Patreon episode or...
Yeah, we'll put something out for you guys.
Yeah, it'll be something new.
Even if Michael wants to do a solo podcast next week for True Crime Guys.
Oh, shit. I don't know.
I'm putting pressure on you now.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, maybe we'll release something else. Maybe I'll release one of the Strange and Unexplained or something as a preview.
We'll get something out there for you guys.
But I think a freeloader ep would be the right thing to do here.
It's been a long time, right? It's been a long time since we gave the freeloaders another taste of Patreon life.
And it's not our fault. I mean, it's not their fault, rather. It is our fault that we're not putting out an episode, but it's not their fault. So I think, rewarding them with with another freeloader ep, not a new one, but a freeloader ep, might be all right.
Yeah, it's had to have been, 8 to 10 months since we've done that, where we released a Patreon. We've been very good about keeping our exclusive content exclusive for the paying customers.
Right.
And we will continue to do that. But, 1 week off a year is not too bad.
No, it's not too bad at all.
So,
all right, dude.
And we'll be back the following week for sure. And, that about does it, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Stay safe out there. Keep creeping.
Keep creeping, guys.
True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder. True crime guys, in the desert we like a mirage. It's okay if you clicked on us cause you thought we was True Crime Garage. Now we ain't mad at you, sit down, let us talk at you. I'm talking to the creeper army, we out here making murder charming.